The Bengals are 0-2 this preseason after falling to the Giants 25-22 at MetLife Stadium on Sunday night. Let's dive into the good, the bad, the ugly from Sunday's game. Hi again, everyone. I'm James Rapien of AllBengals.com. Welcome into Cincinnati Bengals Talk, where your Cincinnati Bengals, well, they did a lot of good things on Sunday night. And as I told someone before the game, the result of preseason games matters very, very little. So that part of it, whether they won, whether they lost, quite frankly, I don't care. I don't really think many people should care. Maybe the Bengals should care in the guys that were certainly in there late. But let's dive into the things that stood out. And let's start with the good. Let's start with the positives. And first things first, Daxton Hill continues to look like a dude. Some dudes look like dudes, and you could tell from a mile away, man, that dude he can play. And that's what he is. The 31st overall pick, you continue to see 23. And he flashed on the Bengals opening defensive possession where he makes a huge tackle on 3rd and 5. And it's one of those shoestring tackles where he's in the open field. He's got to sprint to a spot, make a clean tackle, and he did just that. Had 5 tackles in the first quarter, 6 for the game. And, of course, I might have buried the lead because the interception he had, well, I thought that they might have overturned it, and they did not overturn it. What a great diving interception by Daxton Hill. I think he's going to be a huge part of this defense, even when Jessie Bates comes back, and it is pretty exciting to think about a guy like Hill in a secondary that also has Jessie Bates, Von Bell, Chidobe Awuzie, Eli Apple. Bengals secondary could be a force to be reckoned with. Now, that being said, let's go to really what the storyline of the night was coming into Sunday, which was left guard. And Jackson Carman not playing tonight due to COVID-19, didn't travel with the team, tested positive on Thursday. What did that mean? Well, it opened the door even more for the rookie, Cordell Volson, number 67. And there was some good, there was some bad, there was some in the middle for Volson, but I would say mostly good. I think he passed the test. And that doesn't mean he was perfect. He gave up a sack at the end of the first half. He was called for a false start late in the game with 9 seconds to go. Does it matter? Would it matter? I'm not sure. Couple things, though. One, he played the full game, so I think the Bengals really wanted to get him reps. But two, the fact that I was watching Cordell Volson get pushed in the run game, the fact that I was able to see him and notice him hold his block and really be able to give whatever quarterback was in there that he was blocking for, and he was blocking for all 3 guys tonight, not named Joe Burrow, Brandon Allen, Jake Browning, and Drew Plitt. He gave those guys time. And that's the thing. If you're talking about a big 6'7" guy who has good pad level, has the work ethic and all of those things that we heard Lyle Collins talk about, and he's also doing it out there most of the time now and going out there against starting level competition, which is what he started against tonight with the Giants. I think overall it was a really good outing for Cordell Volson. I think he extended his lead in that left guard competition. It still might not be done. And he's going to have joint practices against the Rams, and he's going to look at the film tonight and be like, man, there's so many other things I could have done. But overall, I think he handled himself well. There weren't many, oh my God, what's 67 doing moments? Really outside of the sack, where it was just a mental mistake. The blitzer just ran right by him. Outside of that, there really wasn't that much bad. So I think Cordell Volson passed his test. Kwamie Lassiter is a guy that you've heard me talk about on this channel quite often during the training camp reports. Didn't hear his name last week. Well, you heard it this week because he caught 5 passes early, in the first couple of quarters, and then on that first drive of the third quarter with the ones, right, in this game, not necessarily the Bengals starters because they didn't play their starters, but he finished with 7 receptions for 91 yards, had two big catches on the Bengals' final possession. And the thing I liked about Kwamie Lassiter, honestly, he dropped the 2-point conversion. So he had 5 catches, I believe it was for 59 yards. Dropped the 2-point conversion when the Bengals went up 22-18 in the fourth quarter, and then he comes back and makes two big plays to keep them in the game on their final possession as they were trying to get close to potentially a game-tying field goal or a potential game-winning score. So Kwamie Lassiter flashed, was really impressed with him. I thought that, Kendrick Pryor, again, he only had 28 yards, but you saw something out of him. And that's the thing, is you look up and down this wide receiver room, there's a lot of dudes, and not everyone's going to make it. And Kwamie Lassiter, he might not make it, right? Kendrick Pryor might not make it, but those are two guys that have made plays, and we saw that again on Sunday night. Chris Evans, we talked to him last week, asked him about his kickoff returns, asked him about his special teams role, asked him about what he could bring to this offense, what he does bring to this offense. You saw it again on special teams this week. He had a 40-plus yard kickoff return. I think it was 41-yarder last week, 73-yarder on Sunday night. Just an absolute weapon, and he's got that kickoff return job locked up. I think that's safe to say. Speaking of being locked up as far as jobs go, Evan McPherson, we already know he's kicker one, right, even though there's a lot of special teams battles. And to me, had a really good night anyways. 3 of 4. Did miss one, though. We know he's human. 58-yarder that he missed. But he made a 50, made a 44, made a 31. So I thought that Evan McPherson did a good job again. The one he missed, Kevin Huber was the holder, which I think is interesting, and Cal Adamitis was the snapper. It looked like the snap was a little high at the time. That said, here's the interesting part of this special teams battle, and we know about the punter battle. So I mentioned Kevin Huber was the holder, and he was alternating with Drew Chrisman. Drew Chrisman was the punter, the lone punter, all night long, and he had 3 punts for 145 yards. It's 48.3 average. 56 yards was his long. He also had 1 punt inside the 20. What does it mean? I'm not sure. Maybe they just wanted to see more of Drew Chrisman. They've seen Kevin Huber for years and years and years. But I think that's a real battle there for that punting job. And Drew Chrisman wasn't the holder on the lone miss. So could be something, could be nothing. Certainly worth noting, though, here for your Cincinnati Bengals. Other things that stood out, Trent Taylor made another play, really nice over-the-shoulder catch, getting both feet down on 4th and 1. I thought that was a fun play call. Outside of that, it's pretty much as advertised. I didn't really love what I saw from the backup offensive lineman. Like I said, Cordell Volson, we were looking at the offensive line early. I was looking where's 67 at? Where's 67 at? Akeem Adeniji was called for a holding penalty, and so was, and we haven't seen a lot of Deontay Smith, and I saw social media, people were very critical of him. He was called for a holding penalty too. You need to get him some reps now, and hopefully he can build on what he was able to do tonight or not do tonight, whatever you want to say. Obviously, I don't think he put his best foot forward as far as that's concerned. Speaking of that, Lamont Gilliard suffered a calf injury, was on the sidelines, didn't leave the sidelines and go in the locker room or anything like that, left his jersey on, so it didn't look like it was that serious, but he's a backup center guard and certainly fighting for a roster spot here. Trey Hill got the start at center, and I thought he was okay at times. It wasn't like he was standing out in a bad way when I saw him. So look, there's a lot, I think, a lot of good that we saw tonight. And then there's some question marks, like the backup corners. I was hoping to see Alan George just really play at a high level, and I thought he made a couple plays here and there, but he also got beat some. And that's the thing, man. I look at the back end of this cornerback room, like, you're kind of missing Cam Taylor-Britt, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. If you'd had a Cam Taylor-Britt in there, it would be nice, and you could look at him. There aren't many guys in the back that you're feeling good about. You're not feeling good about Delonte Hood after tonight. At least I'm not. By the way, the guy that really stood out on defense, a guy who's trying to make the roster, Clay Johnston. How many tackles do you think he had? Don't look at the box score. He had 16 tackles. Solo. 20 combined. Had a quarterback hit, had a sack, had a tackle for loss. So a guy that was trying and is trying to make the roster, he was playing in throughout the game. And so he definitely put some good film out there and had a lot of tackles and racked up some stats. So, look, this Bengals team, they have a lot of dudes that are trying to fight for those spots. I thought Zachary Carter looked okay at times tonight. Jeff Gunter, you didn't notice him as much. He did have a tackle today, and it was a tackle for a loss, but you didn't notice him as much as you did in that opening game. Overall, though, the other notes that I have here, Cam Sample on that first drive, really nice tackle for loss in space with Wan'Dale Robinson, who's a really shifty receiver. That was a good play, 2-yard loss. And then Joseph Osai on 4th and 1 on that first drive, stepping up and making that play. That's what I like about Osai. I think he's going to give them a guy who can be really, really good against the run and give you some juice on the edge. Do both. And if he does that, and gives you that position flex, and Cam Sample obviously going to be a big part of this defensive line as well. I like that we saw those two guys flash early on Sunday night. We're going to have more on the Bengals, more reaction to this game as we digest it on Monday, and it's joint practice week with the Rams. So you better believe we're going to have you covered here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and buckle up, because we only have one more preseason game left, and then it's time for the regular season here in Cincinnati. So, for our channel coordinator, Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien, signing off for now right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk.